Debs.
Law, you all right?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen you for ages or spoken to you. It's been like ships that pass in the night. It's
ships that pass in the night, planets circling in different orbits.
Literally.
But do you know what, Debs? All it sometimes takes is 60 seconds just to reconnect, reset, regain that sense of, oh, okay, yep, cool. I know where you've been and your energy, you know where I've been and my energy. And then you can kind of crack on and be productive, because it's those moments of impact that either make it or break it in terms of those great working relationships.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's that ability to recognise how you're going to show up and what feelings you want to leave people with as a result of you being in the room or having a conversation with them. And it's not the kind that is really loud and performative or anything like that. I think it's more the bit around how people feel because of you. Because I think right here, right now, it's not just what you say, it's the energy you bring and the space that you create, and also the impact you leave behind. Because sometimes, whether it's on Zoom, Teams, virtual, whatever, you're always going to leave an imprint on somebody. So if you're not aware of whether you light the room up when you walk in or walk out, then maybe this is for you.
Oh, I love it whenever you land that bit, or I borrow it and land saying, oh yeah, my colleague Debs has got this brilliant line. Are you the type of person that lights up the room on the way in or the way out?
Yes. And it always takes a moment for that to sink in, doesn't it? And then people go, oh yes.
I know.
I love it.
Oh, it's brilliant. And of course, that's a perfect start to enter into our latest 4-part focus, looking at powerful presence. And this particular one, we're going to be looking at what does it mean to make a great or positive impact and intent. And if we just kind of set the scene, why is this so important right now? Well, at time of recording, the AI conversation has never been louder. And I'm sure it's going to get kind of more and more on our kind of radar. And so if we have the world's information at our fingertips that we can dial up onto our screens, what does it mean when you are making the choice? Which meetings do I attend? Who are the people I give my full attention to? So if we're operating in what's called the attention economy, I can be in 3 different places at once because I can just get some listening devices that can tell me logically what was said. What does it actually mean to create those moments of connection where there's that powerful presence where you're sitting there either online or in person thinking, I am fully here. I'm locked in and I'm engaged in this moment.
Yeah, I'm with you, because I think it's not about your job title necessarily or how loud you or how much you say. I think it is really about the who are you, who you are, what you say, but how you show up. And that is then people start to trust you, people start to listen, and then people feel you. And that's where that connection is made, really. So, but Laura, I've got a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, because I know you love a question from me. So are you up for the first question? Because I think this might help shape it. Born ready. So, Laura, when you hear the phrase powerful presence, what does that mean to you? And what does it not mean to you?
Okay. Well, without being too overly dramatic about it, when I think about powerful presence, it's those moments where you see someone just in their element, so involved and engaged in the information they are sharing that they've lost that level of self-consciousness.
Yes.
So they're mindful of the impact they're having on others, but they're not overly worrying about whether they've said the right word or not. And I don't mean about just kind of blurting stuff out, but when you see someone who has got powerful presence, it's because you can just see they're operating on purpose.
Yeah.
They're saying information, they're sitting around in a conversation where you just know that person themselves really wants to be there. So for me, powerful presence is where you as the communicator are so in, there's no other room in your mind or your body to allow any other sort of distractions, which then creates that sort of sense of connection with someone else.
Yes.
Because that powerful presence is almost that moment.
Yes.
And you ask the question, what is it not? I think it is not overpowering someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
So me leading a bit of communication in that moment doesn't then mean that I'm forever talking. You then just check yourself. Actually, if this is a two-way conversation, but I've been talking for 45 minutes, then potentially that's an overpowering presence.
Yes.
So it's almost just like we teach children, it is that exchanging the baton of questioning, listening, being able to engage in two-way conversation. And if you are doing a bit of one-way comms, because it's a presentation or you're in an interview, you're sharing information in a way that means that people can kind of get involved with what you're saying. So you're empowering your listener to be able to understand what you're saying and what it then means to them.
Yeah, I love that, Laura. And you're so right. So have you seen anybody that's done it really, really well? And they actually didn't say much, but they were there. They were in it. What was it about them?
I think I've seen loads of examples in the training room and also in kind of various scoping sort of conversations of where a well-timed question from the quietest, most reserved person in the room can just completely shift and change the level of energy for better. Yeah. So it's a bit like the Columbo, just one more thing. You know, you might have someone that actually was just sitting there contributing with their energy. So they're engaged and they're involved and they're kind of, you know, following the path of the conversation, but they might not have pushed much info in. And then they just pull the direction by asking a really smart question that's not looking to trick anyone. So it's not looking to remove, you know, anyone's sort of sense of confidence, but it just reshapes that conversation. So I think sometimes you say it best when you say nothing at all.
Are you going to sing that or not? Really?
Oh my God, no. But it's a way of just nudging the conversation along with either a comment, a thought, or a question. So I've seen that lots of times. Sometimes it's the quietest person in the room that actually holds that power because people can see that they're respecting the conversation.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying about being really present in the now. And I think part of that is being able to get yourself ready to be prepared to step into that space, whether it's, a 60-second lift conversation or, it's that meeting you're walking into or whatever it is. I think that being ready is so important because, we always know that, at work, whether you're online or not, people are always watching. And it's like Lynn's always says, doesn't she, our colleague, that, if I was following you around with a camera with no sound, how would I know you have a good presence? How would I know that you're having the right impact on people? And I think, that's true because we are being watched all of the time. So how do we ensure that we have that, I suppose, authentic approach rather than that arrogant approach, which sometimes people get muddled up with, I think, when you talk about powerful presence. So I suppose, how do we strike that balance then, in your thoughts, Laura, around showing up confidently without tipping into that arrogance or that performance state where it's fake?
I think that's such a good question. It's that sense of mutual respect. So I respect myself enough to have the confidence to speak up and say this bit. And I also respect you enough to listen when you share me your stuff. So I kind of almost imagine it's like two people on a seesaw and we've got equal status in terms of two humans who each have a right to be able to share their view. And they have a responsibility to listen to the other person's view. Yeah, and then no view is better than the other. And it's being able to work with people that might have different views from yourself. And I think this is such a hot topic at the moment, Debs.
Yeah, I think it is, Laura.
It is, how do we not get sort of down the rabbit hole of where everyone is trying to outprove each other? Yeah. And act in a performative way, as you said. And it's the genuine thing of, here's me, this was important to me. Who are you? What's important to you? So an arrogance is where I think my thoughts and myself and what I know is better than yours. Yeah. Confidence is, I feel confident to share what I know because I feel confident I can handle challenge from you. So let's find out about you.
Yeah, that's such a good point and that's what healthy debate comes from, isn't it, as well, where you can have those open conversations where it's just a great conversation to have because it makes you think differently and disrupts your thinking. And also having that awareness to say, what impact did I have? Because some people are oblivious to the impact that they have. So I'd be interesting to hear from your point of view, Laura, because I know you've been in hundreds of thousands of rooms over the years, as have
during
most of us.
The war, I've been in it out for years.
I think
veteran trainer here.
Veteran, literally getting in. Have you ever caught yourself in the moment, either shrinking or overcompensating? And what did you learn from that? Because I think we've all done it. And it's that wake-up moment where you go, I've certainly done it when I've been overcompensating and because I've been trying to prove a point or show that I have the knowledge in a room full of people that I believe are more knowledgeable than me. So I've overcompensated, not being true to myself, and then gone, what was I doing? Yeah, what was I thinking? Yeah. It's like, that's not who I am. So I wonder if you felt the same at any point.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a few moments that spring to mind where I have kicked myself thinking, I missed that moment. Or now as I'm older and wiser, thinking, that was a really childish way to participate. So I have a memory that springs to mind of sitting there in my kind of last but one permanent job when I was on a payroll.
And many moons ago,
because obviously now we're feral and unable to be employed. So I was there in my last but one permanent job. So this must have been, let's say, 2008, 2009. Okay. And I remember I was in a team meeting, so I was part of the L&D team, and there was lots of conversation at our catch-up meeting with HR that didn't involve me.
Right.
And I found myself just getting more and more resentful of having to sit through this meeting that had nothing to do with me. And I remember just really bringing out these childlike behaviours, sitting slumped in my chair, doodling and not getting involved.
Brilliant.
And I now think back thinking, who do you think you were? Like, you were there, part of the wider team, and just because the agenda wasn't directly related to you, that was a reputational moment, in that moment, in terms of how easy I am to sort of work with. And it was an interesting one. And my HR director, in a nice way, pulled me up on it a little bit later.
Oh, really?
And I remember being mortified because, mortified because your energy, if you normally contribute and then there are moments where you don't. And, for me, I relatively, I think I probably came across not surly, but not exactly adding in lots of info. And I basically had just got into my own ego of, why aren't we talking about anything that involves me? This stuff doesn't directly interest me, so I'm just going to kind of check out. And in those times, it was a face-to-face meeting, so it was really obvious. And I now look back on, like 15 years on, thinking, that's really childish behaviour. Yeah. Actually, how would I handle that now? Now I kind of have just seen the world and seen behaviours 15 years on. And I think it would be basically managing yourself. So that emotional intelligence, bit of self-management. And then if you've got a problem with a meeting, having a straightforward conversation with someone saying, how about we stick to the agenda? No. Or how come we make the agenda a bit more balanced? So that was a moment where I wasn't my authentic self because I just got a little bit childish and a bit obstructive. And compared to other people, it wasn't that bad. But to me, it sticks with me.
For you, and I think when you have those moments where you sort of go, damn, I did that, it does make you feel more ready, more present, when you're more conscious of walking into a room and thinking about how you do show up. Because if your intent is to have a positive impact on people, which emotional intelligence is all about, right, then you have to do something different. But we still see it. I was talking to a group the other last week, and the one thing that kept coming out was around their communication and how their communication landed. And I said, to be honest, if everybody communicated in the way that they should, we'd be out of a job. But that's why we get, because people still don't do it or recognise themselves and because we have so many triggers and we're human and we react and we don't know what day it is sometimes, and we have so much stuff going on, in our backstories and in the moment, that we're not always consciously present. And I think that building up and being ready to step in, I think, is really important. So you're in it, not around it or floating. But I think we've all been there, Laura, where we've gone, that wasn't very professional, or
no.
And then you're trying to make it up and, overcome that. And then that's the other, sends you down another road and you go, just stop.
But I just had a little reflection moment, just you asking me these questions. And this potentially is a controversial, provocative thing to say, but who knows?
Say it.
Who knows where the world of work is heading? So who knows what the long plan looks like?
Yeah.
But the shift that happened to me, which means I hopefully have never knowingly acted like that way in any other meeting since, is I've been self-employed. And when you are self-employed, it makes a very clear accountability to the exchange of my presence in return for value I'm adding. And I think if I were to go back on a payroll, my first tip would be, for myself, well, don't drain the payroll. Like if someone is bankrolling you to be sitting there in a meeting, make sure it's one that is relevant to you. You've done your prep. And if it's not relevant or done your prep, don't sit there for a further 3 and waste 3 months of sitting at this meeting. Do something about it, because I think it brings a level of empowerment when you are there by choice from the people there. Whereas when I was an employee, you kind of got to go there. So you have this almost this sense of kind of, duty rather than service.
Yeah,
so I'm just wondering whether if a tip would be, it's not about kind of adding, there are benefits and cons of being self-employed versus employed. So it's not necessarily bringing into that debate. But I do wonder whether from a powerful presence point of view, if we channeled a consultant mindset of actually I'm here because I choose to be here and this is the value I want to add. And therefore I'm going to contribute, whether that is the quiet moments or the loud moments, but I'm here and I'm locked in because, if you're accountable for every hour or day that you're there with a client, then it makes you super engaged. And I just wonder whether, and also with boundaries, because, we've seen all the kind of the resentments and the fatigue that can build up when you've got employees that have felt, put upon. So it's kind of finding your voice and thinking, actually, life is short. In return, I've made a psychological contract in exchange my time for money, if you're working for money. So how do I ensure that is a give and a get? And actually, in order for me to get that salary, I'm going to give my attention.
Yeah, I really like that, duty versus service. And I know we sort of talk about that, but you've just made me think back to, in my HR days, our job titles changed to HR consultants. And I remember, loads of years ago now, but I always remember my boss at the time, who is an amazing lady, Sian Evans, a big shout out to her. She introduced us to the world of consultancy and doing that approach to how do you consult with a business, how do you consult with a team? Yes, you're part of the organisation, but you're there to provide that service. And I think that's probably what's stood us in good stead moving forward, is that, I want to be in the room. I genuinely want to add value and I want to have a positive impact on people. But I think when I look back now, and you've just said that, I think that's probably where my awareness of it properly came from, way back when. I mean, we're talking, bloody hell, nearly 40 years ago, potentially. But she was the one that pushed us to the HR consultant role. And I remember her giving us a book to read about how to be a great consultant. And I just think, I'm going to dig that book out. But it is service to others, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether it's from a role model point of view, whether it's from a refresh mindset. If someone's listening feeling a bit drained at the moment and they're thinking, God, I just don't have any spare energy left to give presence, just have a mirror moment of, well, why am I here then? What is the value I'm adding? Because if actually I'm getting dragged along to all these meetings that I can't participate in, then how might I reset some boundaries so that when I'm there in a meeting, a conversation, I've got enough peace inside my head to be able to lock in and engage in that moment, which is why I know we always circle back to this wellness, self-belief, all of that good stuff. making sure your own CEO, Chief Energy Officer, to be able to give the attention and contribute in that moment in a way that is natural to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go on to some practical applications around it, shall we just take a moment to reflect and then come back? And I've got another question for you, Laura. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
So, Laura, one of the things that we always get asked is, it's all great in theory, but how do you do it? And I suppose, is presence something that you build or something we uncover? Because I think sometimes people go, well, you've either got it or you haven't. And I've always gone, we all have it. So what do you think? Do you think presence is something we build or something we uncover?
Ooh, I love that. I think we got to view it like onions, Debs.
Oh, nice.
And
Peel it back.
Peel it back, and it's peeling away enough layers of your protective ego that potentially get in the way of being able to connect with someone else. So this isn't I'm standing up in the room or I'm contributing to this meeting and I've got bravado and I've got this big thick crust of confidence that means that I'm going to kind of overbear the other person. We're kind of soft and malleable enough and adjustable enough to just be in that moment. Yeah. But a on point version of you.
Yes.
So I saw it backfire once at a head teacher conference I was at, and I was basically speaker number 2, who was kind of on. They typically put me in the kind of post-lunch bit. So it was
the graveyard
day 2.
Shift, as it gets
called. The graveyard shift, yes. Chuck out Laura. She'll wind it. She'll get going.
Yeah.
Bringing the energy. And we need the banana baton game. I'm your girl. Yeah. So day 2, lunchtime slot of a 2-day head teacher conference. And I saw it backfire a little bit, where there was someone who was the main facilitator in the morning, and they just stood up and said, so hi, what is it you want to cover then? And he hadn't done any prep. And he'd sort of, I know, look at the shock on your face. No prep.
No prep.
No. He'd kind of gone on the fact that he'd written this book however long ago. And you just saw like 98 head teachers just go, come on, mate, like you've got to do a bit of work before you get us having the table conversation. And it was really interesting because in that moment, it was just all a little bit tumbleweed because the audience hadn't been connected, and it actually just looked like lazy, disrespectful communication because this guy was coming in and had been heralded as the kind of, you know, the big speaker for day 1. And it was just all a bit odd. And I remember sitting there thinking, right, there's that fine balance between a natural space for people to just be able to communicate. But there also is the requirement to have planned, to done your prep so that you know then sort of what to do. So it was interesting. The where I've seen it kind of backfire a little bit. So it's being yourself, but also aware and respecting other people's time. If you want 5 minutes of attention, then you got to be able to earn it in the first 30 seconds. So the 3:33 rule, I think, is a really handy little thing to prepare. First 3 seconds is where people have their first initial reaction. So that's your facial expression. It's the way you greet people. If when people come on the Teams call, you're going, and that's the way you're starting that team meeting.
Woo.
You've certainly landed an impact in that first 3 seconds. So the first 3 seconds, so it might be you just take a deep breath and you get ready to host that interaction. The next 30 seconds is giving people enough information to kind of grasp where you're coming from. And then within 3 minutes, you've given the fast processors enough to go on, and the people that kind of need a little bit more time to reflect, enough to sort of think about. So planning the first 3 minutes of any planned interaction that you've got, and equally important, planning your outro. How do you want that conversation to come to an end? Whether it's a formal bit of communication, what's going to be your kind of parting shot? And then it just feels like a nice, neat bit of presence that you've then had. It's not kind of awkward at all. So I think it's about being yourself, but, you know, a vague idea as to what you want people to think, feel, do as a result of spending time with you.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I suppose if you were to meet somebody and they were going into a meeting, and they were going to instantly shift how they show up, what one small thing could they do to do that? So they might not be consciously aware of it. They are now if they've listened to this. So what piece of advice would you give somebody to be able to instantly shift how they show up in a room or a meeting or a lift conversation or whatever? What would you say?
Good question. I think if it is people that you don't know so well, do an exchange of names. Who's who, and getting someone's name. Once someone has disclosed their name, that is the most important word in the world to get right. Because it was the first word you learnt as a baby that got you things. It might not have been the first word you said. Might have been mama, dada, or duck in my daughter's instance. But anyway, I'm not going to take it personally.
Please don't, Laura.
No, but learning that noise, that sound that was your own name is the first word that you ever learn, and everything else has been stacked on top. So I think never underestimate the power of connecting with people, just checking everyone's name. And I've been surprised so many times because we're a bit more empowered as the outsider coming in. You find out how many people in that meeting didn't know each other anyway.
Yeah, I know, which blows my mind.
People would have sat there awkwardly, because if I've shared my name, I've disclosed personal info. It's not so much that it's too much, but it creates a little bit more of a sense of psychological safety. So on a very minimal, if you think you might not know everyone, but I bet everyone might not know everyone. So if it feels like relevant and appropriate, just a quick hello, who's who around the room, that breaks the ice. And that is where it can just melt and diffuse the barriers that might be in a room, because once people start to share just something simple like their name, then you already start to feel a bit more familiar with each other. It's creating that sense of familiarity, but not over familiarity. And so that would be my very simple first step.
Yeah, I like that.
Never assume that everyone knows everyone else in the room. And sometimes that simple exchange of names can just set you up confidently as well, because that gives you a minute or so just to settle yourself in and feel the energy in the room.
Yeah, and that is so important actually, Laura, because we do training for different organisations, right? We might not be there for 2 years, then we go back and we're there again, and there are familiar faces in the room, but in between those first times, we might have seen another thousands of people, and I'm, because of my memory, I go, I know a face, but I can't always remember the name. So that intro is so important, and I intro myself. I don't assume that people know who I am because there's some people in the room that I've worked with before. So it is about being, how are you being in that moment, isn't it? And how you can show up. And I love that. You're right. Your name is the first thing that you were given. So it makes you feel really important, right?
Absolutely. And it's okay, I think, to say to someone, forgive me, remind me of your name again. If you're about to go into a meeting and you think, oh, God, I can't remember their name. Because sharing that, and 9 times out of 10, someone will say, yeah, and actually, what's your name again?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it means we're not having a surface conversation. And it also shows you're genuinely interested. I'm locked into this conversation. And so let's kind of meet and connect. And whether you're the biggest extrovert or the most reserved introvert, as you say, there could be some moments that happen by candlelight. It's not always stage big lights. This powerful present isn't about showing off. It's about showing out who you are and how you want to work with people, and the fact it's reciprocal, and giving someone else your attention is the biggest enabler for them giving them their attention to you.
Yeah, so you're definitely, as you say, somebody who lights up the room as you walk in rather than as you walk out. And, we've seen that. I've been in the room with you and you can see that light come in. And I think it's so powerful to do that. So I suppose for me, my call to action, I think, just getting people to think about how and what are you going to do differently. So my call to action would be, what do I want people to feel because I showed up? And maybe notice one small shift that you could do to bring more of you into the room. Like you're saying, your authentic self, your congruent self, because that's what people buy into. People buy people, right? And people see through fakes. So yeah, what do I want people to feel because I showed up? That would be my call to action. Have a moment to reflect on that and be ready for it.
Yeah, love that. My share the secret would be, let's say you've got a colleague at the moment that is going, oh my goodness, everyone I work with just needs to have an injection of something because everyone's busy. They're kind of trying to be three things, three places at once. And we're just not having we're missing these moments of connection. Get them to listen to this because sometimes it can be really reassuring to know you're not the only one. And we're living in an attention economy. Those algorithms and those online things that we look are incredibly seductive at grabbing our attention.
Yes.
So this is our opportunity to think, all right, well, if we're in the room with each other or on a screen with each other, how do we ensure that the message is compelling? We land it in a way that's interesting to the other person, not because we're trying to overpower or overbear, but because we want to be there and create a positive impact. So get your colleagues to listen to this because sometimes it's the simplest things that can make a difference. And if I were to sum it up, Debs, it's about enjoying that moment yourself because that is what the people who light up a room bring in when they come in. They want to be there and they're looking forward to enjoying the conversation or the meeting that they're in, and it's they're locked in, as my daughter says. I'm locking in.
I love
I'm locking in.
Locking in. Yeah, because you don't need to be more impressive. You just need to be more present, I think. So I've loved this, because
Beautiful.
it's such a powerful thing, and the impact you have. Never underestimate that impact that you have and that powerful presence that you can bring. Make sure it's the right presence that you're bringing and not the wrong one, because I just think it's such an important topic, especially now with the human-centric skills going on and what's needed in connection. You've got to be ready for it, I think. So it's been great chatting about this one, Laura. Thank you for answering my questions.
Well, thank you for getting some thought-provoking questions. And, as we often say, every day a school day. And, it keeps us fresh, it keeps us future fit. And in this ever-changing, rapidly evolving world of work that we're in, there's so much appetite, and conversation around bringing that human edge. Well, this is it right now. If you've got two humans in a room, in a lift, in a presentation scenario, how do we ensure that we have that moment of engagement and connection? And sometimes it's the simplest, smallest bits that make the biggest impact. At least that's what my first husband told me. So
Did he remember your name though? I love that.
Dear valued customer. No, that's my name.
What's my name? Yeah, what's my name? Call me by my name. I love that. Well, we have a whole series of this, don't we, Laura? So I'm looking forward to our next one.
Yeah, can't wait. So this was the first in our 4-part focus looking at powerful presence. And we're going to take a number of different lenses. And this one has been about locking in that moment. So creating positive impact and intent through that moment of connection. So thank you so much, Debs. Have an awesome week.
You too, lovely. And enjoy whatever you're doing. You'll light the room up, I'm sure, as you walk in, not as you walk out. So keep doing what you do. And I look forward to chatting next time.
Oh, beautiful, Debs. Oh, love you.
Love you lots.
Bye. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at contact@secretsfromacoach.com or follow us on Insta or Facebook. If you're a Spotify listener, give us a rating as it's easier for people to find us. And if you want to know more, visit our website, www.secretsfromacoach.com, and sign up for our newsletter. Here to cheer you on and help you thrive in the ever-changing world of work.